This is Lakshmi from MBA department. Today topic is the culture and reality shock. What is the culture and the reality shock? Let us see what is the culture shock. Culture shock is an experience a person may have when one moves to a cultural environment which is different from one's own. It is also personal disorientation a person may feel when experiencing an familiar way of life due to immigration or visit to a new country. A move between social environments or simply transition to another type of life. This is the culture shock. Okay, culture shock. One of the most common causes of culture shock involves individual in a foreign environment. Culture shock can be described as consisting of at least one of four distinct phases. Four phases it has to be in cultural shock. Cultural shock. First stage is the initial stage. Second stage is the negotiation and adjustment and adaptation. Common problems including in this cultural shock: information overload, language barrier, generation gap, technology gap, and skill interdependence, formulation dependency, and homesickness, infinite regression, and homesickness, boredom, job dependency, responsibility, cultural skill set. There is no true way to entirely prevent culture shock, as individually any society are personally affected by the cultural contrast differently. Four phases it has to be in the cultural shock. First stage is the initial stage, negotiation and adjustment. First stage is initial stage, nothing but starting stage. Negotiation, we have discussing about that particular place or particular work to the other persons. Next stage is the adjustment to the other people or other colleagues or persons. And adaptation. Common problems involving in this cultural shock: information overload. We don't know information for that particular work and a particular place. Language barrier. We don't know other languages for that particular place. Generation gap and the technology gap also. Skill interdependency. We should know how to do that particular work. Otherwise, and formless dependency, homesickness, infinite regression, and nothing but homesickness, boredom, job dependency, responsibility. There is no true way to entirely prevent culture shock, as individuals in any society are personally affected by the cultural contrast differently. Cultural shock. It has phases. We are discussing already about that phases in cultural shock. Initial stage, negotiation, adjustment, and adaptation. Let us see what is the initial stage in cultural shock. There are three basic outcomes of the adjustment phases. Some people find it impossible to accept a foreign culture and to integrate. They isolate themselves from the host country environment, which they come to perceive as withdraw into a ghetto and return to their own culture as they only way out. These rejectors also have the greatest problems are reintegrating back home after return. In this adjustment phase, some people integrate fully and take in all parts of the host culture while losing their original identity. This is called cultural assimilation. Culture assimilation. They normally remain in the host country forever. This group is sometimes known as the adopters and it describes approximately 10% of expatriates. In this adjustment phase, in cultural shock. Okay, there are three basic outcomes of the adjustment phase. Third phase is that some people manage to adapt to the aspects of the host culture they see as positive while keeping some of their own and creating their unique blend. They have no major problems returning home or relocating elsewhere. This group can be thought to be somewhat cosmopolitan. Nothing but world map. Approximately 30% of expats belong to in this group. Culture shock has many different effects, time spans, and degrees of severity. Many people are handicapped by its presence and do not recognize what is bothering them. This is also one of the adjustment phase in cultural shock. Let us see stages. First stage is the depression phase. In this depression phase, initial stage. And the second crash, humor phase, excitement and anxiety, comfort phase, and the readjustment phase is the re-entry shock. These four stages has to be involving in this cultural shock. First stage is the initial stage, humor phase, comfort phase, and re-entry shock. In this human phase, honeymoon phase or initial stage, depression phase. We don't know how to do that particular work. Wherever you go to the new places or new work or new company or new organization, we are thinking about that, how to do that particular work. We don't know about that particular work. So, we are thinking, this is depression phase. Next, in the second crash, humor phase and excitement, and sometimes we are thinking for that particular new work or new job. We are excitement and anxiety also. Next, in this after excitement, comfort phase and the readjustment phase and re-entry shock. Okay, let us see what is the stages. Cultural shock generally moves through 4 different phases. First stage is the initial stage, frustration stage, adjustment stage, and acceptance. Finally, we are accepted to that particular work or particular job. Let us see what is the initial stage in the cultural shock stages. The first stage is the cultural shock is an overwhelmingly positivity. positivity. Travelers become infatuated with the language, people, and food in their new surroundings, in their new infatuated. At this stage, the trip or move seems like the greatest decision wow ever made and an exciting adventure. Exciting adventure. In the beginning, the whole process will seem weird for you. Weird for you. We are uncomfortable. We don't know. Surroundings are, languages are, and people also. Open your mind, observe, try not to compare everything with what you want to see in your country. Seen in your country. Who said? Iriana, a former ambassador teacher from Ukraine. On short trips, initial phase may take over the entire experience as the later effects of cultural shock don't have time to set in. On longer trips, the initial stage will usually phase out eventually. And the first stage is the initial stage. And the second stage is the frustration stage. What is the frustration stage in the cultural shock? The frustration may be the most difficult stage of cultural shock and is probably familiar to anyone who has lived in abroad or travels frequently. At this stage, a fatigue of not understanding, laziness, and gestures, signs, and the language sets in the miscommunications may be happening. For me, it was a difficulty at the beginning time. Wherever you go to the new place or new work, we are thinking at this stage, the fatigue of not laziness, of not understanding gestures, signs, and the language sets in and miscommunication may be happening where it is in new places or new work. It was a difficult at the beginning, but then it became the best experience I have ever had, said. Who said? Esmeralda, a former ambassador teacher from Costa Rica. For example, in this frustration stage, for the cultural shock stages, small things, losing keys, missing the bus, or not being able to easily order to food in a restaurant in new places, maybe trigger frustration. And while frustration comes and goes, it's natural reaction for people spending extended in a new countries or new places. Bouts of depression or homesickness are common during the frustration stage. Okay. Let us the adjustment stage. Initial stage, frustration stage, last the adjustment stage. The frustrations are often subdued as travelers begins to feel more familiar and comfortable with the cultures, people, food, and languages of new environments. Navigation becomes easier and friends and communities of support are established. We are discussing with other peoples for the new places or new works. After frustration stage, we are adjusted wherever you go. Details of local languages. We are discussing about that particular place with our friends or our colleagues and all. Details of languages may become more recognizable during the adjustment stage. When I got here, the people that I interacted with made a world of difference. The fear that I had when I came to United States was made easier by the people I met, especially at my school, who said, Roman, an ambassador teacher from Jamaica. Okay, this is the adjustment stage in cultural shock. The people, when I got here, the people that I interacted with made a world of a different. The fear that I had when I came to the United States was made easier by the people I met, especially at my school, who said, Roman. Okay. After final phase is the acceptance stage. In cultural phases first stage is the initial stage and second stage is the frustration. We are frustrated for the new places. We don't know how to communicate with others in new place and all. After that we are adjusted. And then fourth phase is the acceptance phase. Generally, through the sometimes of weeks, months or years, after wrestling with the emotional stages outlined above, the final stage of cultural shock is acceptance. Cultural shock is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean that new cultures or environments are completely understood. Acceptance doesn't mean the new cultures or environments are completely understood. Just we understood. That's it. In signifies the complete understanding is it necessary to function and thrive in the new surroundings. During the acceptance stage, travelers are able to draw together the resources they need to feel at ease. Where it is in acceptance stage. So this is the cultural shock stages and or phases. In this acceptance stage, though it can be of the hardest parts of the traveling, culture shock is just as integral to the experience as food. In initial stage, we don't know surroundings, especially food, culture, people and all. At this stage, experience as a food, people and scenery and all. By recognizing it for what it is and finding ways to cope, we are accepted to the surroundings. Cope you want, you can prevent culture shock from ruining an otherwise enriching experience abroad. This is the acceptance stage in cultural shock stages. Initial stage, frustration stage, and adjustment stage. Finally, we are accepted to the new places and new culture and new surroundings. What are the common symptoms to the cultural shock? Common symptoms: anxiety, depression, loneliness. Why? Because of we are going wherever you going, we don't know about that particular place, particular surroundings and all. Second phase is the being homesickness. Disturbed sleep patterns, remoteness or isolation. And fifth phase is a decreased productivity, poor time management, drastic personality changes, and sample headline. Common symptoms of the cultural shock. We are discussing about that phases and what is the cultural shock and stages. And this is 8 symptoms has to be in the cultural shock. First one is the anxiety, depression, loneliness, being homesick, disturbed sleep patterns, remoteness or isolation, decreased productivity, poor time management, drastic personality changes, sample headline. In common, extreme homesickness, feelings of helplessness, dependency, disorientation and isolation, depression and sadness, hyper irritability may include inappropriate anger and hostility, sleep and eating disturbances, too little or too much, excessive critical reactions to host culture or stereotyping, hypochondria, excessive drinking, recreational drug dependency, extreme concerns over sanitation, safety, and being taken advantages of, loss of focus and ability to a complete tasks. These common symptoms of involving in this cultural shock. Let us see what is the reality shock. What is the reality shock? It is the total social, physical and emotional response of a person to the unexpected, unwanted or undesired and even to the tolerable. Who's according to Marlon Kramer in 1974. What is the reality shock? It is the total social, physical and emotional response of a person to the unexpected, unwanted or undesired and even to the tolerable. Okay. What is the reality shock? Reaction experienced when entering workforce after years of preparation. We are realized for the particular work or particular job or particular place after years or months or days. Recent graduates are expected to be competent, capable nurses without experience. They don't have experience, but they were anxiety, excitement, increased acuity combined with a nourishing shortage may leave you feeling depressed, insecure and powerless. For example, new graduates nurses enter their first job as a professional nurse, easier to being their new role. Many new grads will orient to their new role with ease while some will struggle. Some will struggle. New grades work with nurse preceptors to smooth the transition from the student nurse to professional nurse. Student nurse to professional nurse. This is the reality. Student nurse to professional nurse. In the beginning of this transition, excitement takes over as a new grade meets to new colleagues and accepts new challenges. It is natural to feel overwhelmed and disillusioned as a new grade. These feelings typically start about 6 months to a year after getting the off orientation, when the new grade realize the healthcare environment is flawed. This is the new grade, newly joined staff nurse experience. Let us see what is the phases in reality shock also. 4 phases it has to be in the reality shock. First phase is the initial stage. Let us shocking stage. Recovery stage and resolution stage. And the cultural stage also has initial stage. Here, second stage is a shock stage. And the cultural stage has frustration stage. In reality shock has shocking stage. You are shocking to the new place and new work. You are shocked about that. Let us see what is the initial phase in the reality shock. Everything about job feels wonderful. Like rose-colored glasses on fun stage with a high enthusiasm and energy. High energy. Where it is in initial phase. How to support your orients to in initial phase? Easier to skills in this page. Use this opportunity. Easier to fit in. Introduce to co-workers and teach about unit standards. Help Orients find their niche. So they will have some stability going forward. Shock stage. After initial phase, shock phase. Notice inconsistencies. They have feel some inconveniences with colleagues and the organization. Variations. They were noticed from that particular place. Feel discontent with others' behaviors. Cope with a range of negative feelings. Negative feelings like fatigue, frustration, outrage, laziness, frustration. While we are shocked in the particular place, in the reality shock. Fatigue, frustration, outrage. Okay, in the shock stage, how to support your orients? Listen to your orient's concerns. Help your orients when they're feeling constructively. Model positive behaviors. help orients to see the positive aspects among the negatives and discuss opportunities for the changes in the workplace. Changes in the workplace. Okay. This is the recovery phase in the reality shock. First stage is the initial phase and the shock phase. Third phase is the recovery phase. What is the recovery phase in the reality shock? Recognize that there are both positive and negative aspects of the workplace. Both positive and negative aspects. Establish reasonable expectations concerning co-workers. Heralded by a return of sense of humor. At recovery stage. Recognize that there are both positive and negative aspects of the workplace in the recovery phase. Okay, how to support your orients in recovery phase? Encourage orients to turn their frustrations into action by the joining unit or hospital-wide committees to work for the change. Ask orients for suggestions that might help future new hires. Continue to insist that orients treat co-workers and patients with respect despite any frustrations. Any type of frustrations. Treat with co-workers. Next stage is the resolution stage. Initial stage, shock stage, recovery stage, and finally resolution phase or stage. Okay, what is the resolution stage in reality shock? Blend previous nursing experience from the school or other positions with the new realities of current workplace. Develop constructive problem solving skills. Either resolve to continue nursing career or may burnout or leave. We can leave. Develop constructive problem solving skills from that nursing experiences. Okay, how to support your orients in resolution phase? Help orients combine the best elements of old perceptions and new workplace realities. Help orients identify short and long-term career goals. Continue to encourage and model exemplary work ethics. This is the culture and reality shock. Meaning of culture shock, meaning of reality shock, phases in cultural shock. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.